Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world and whenever you are tuning into this video. My name is James Porcelli.
And I'm Brian Thomas.
And welcome to another very, very special edition of Ruthless Talk. It's Mania Week, baby. It is WrestleMania Week.
Yes, sir.
The intensity, the electricity is in the air as we are getting closer and closer to Mania, as the buzz everywhere is rapid around the wrestling industry. And listen, your boy's excited, man. It's WrestleMania. Yep. It's here. I'm sure WWE, whether we like it or not, has got a lot of juicy stuff planned, and we're going to be talking all about it afterwards when we cover WrestleMania, both night 1 and 2. And you see the banner down below. We're going to be covering that Sunday morning. Sometimes Sunday you'll get that episode that comes out as we cover night 1, and then on Monday you will get the night 2 review of WrestleMania night 2. But before we get to WrestleMania, we got to get to Mania Week, WrestleMania, the go home show, which was Monday Night Raw from this past Monday. However, there's another big wrestling topic that we got to discuss, and that involves Phil Brooks himself, CM Punk. Now, before we get into that as well, I do want to mention in regards to a previous video that I uploaded that was about Wyndham Rotunda Bray Wyatt. That episode is on Spotify, YouTube, and all of our podcasting platforms, as well as YouTube. Pretty much kind of just broke down the career and just honoring and reliving the career of legit my favorite wrestler of all time. It's starting to become that now. But I just felt like it was just a very necessary thing to do, especially after watching that documentary. And again, just a beautiful documentary if you haven't checked that out. But make sure you guys go check that out. Not just for me in this platform, but just for Bray and his family and just everything in regards to Wyndham Rotunda and the family and all that stuff. And just for Bray himself, and just, the one thing that I can do for Bray, as, being the biggest Bray Wyatt fan that I am, and just knowing how much hard work and dedication to his craft, the one thing that I can do for him, and I know he's not here to receive it, but to give him just an admiration video, an admiration episode, just, reliving his amazing career, the highs, the lows, the times where I want to just slam my head through a fucking wall, all of it. And it was just, I just felt like it was just a necessary thing to do. And hopefully you guys enjoy it. And that's just the one thing I can give to Wyndham is, a type of tribute video like that, because of how much he's meant to me and to so many other people. So Wyndham, rest in peace. We love you, brother. And I'm going to miss you, brother. It's hard. I'm still like in denial, like this dude is no longer here, but yeah, it is what it is, man.
That was a huge loss.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, huge loss in the wrestling world, man. And like you said, that documentary, awesome, beautiful, well done. And you and I had done an episode, back when all this went down, and you can see it in this documentary. This guy, more than just a wrestler, was like I said back then, could have wrote a script for a movie, wrote a book. Yeah. He was just so freaking creative, and unlike anything we've ever seen, even beyond the Undertaker. He's obviously the closest comparison, but man, he took what the Undertaker did and ran with it. And just a huge loss. Heart goes out to all the Mike Rotunda, Barry Windham, Bo Dallas, the whole family, his kids, sister, JoJo. His kids, absolutely, JoJo. Just, man,
it sucks, man.
It hurt. Yeah, it sucks. It hurts.
It really does.
Yeah.
For sure. So, but hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Again, that is absolutely up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Again, just breaking down his career, going, some of the highs, the lows, the in-between, and everything. So check that out if you haven't already. All righty. Now let's dive into this episode. So, of course, the main topic for today, of course, is Monday Night Raw, and we will be going over that show. But we got to talk about the CM Punk interview, man, as he pretty much broke his silence. And when I mean he broke his silence, I mean this motherfucker broke his freaking silence as he laid out everything about his WWE return, about him getting kicked out of a freaking WWE event not too long ago. All of his stuff when he was in AEW with the exchange with Jack Perry, with Hangman Adam Page, all of it. He starts off talking about he received a call from Nick Khan, and this is like the week of Thanksgiving. And we're talking 5 days away from Survivor Series, right? And he receives a call from Nick Khan about him returning for the Royal Rumble, is what and as well as you, Brian, we talked about that's a good way to have Punk return, because it was very unlikely because of how close Survivor Series was. We didn't know the reality of how that was going to play out. But Punk was like, because Nick Khan thought he had a no compete clause, and then Punk was like, "No, dude, I'm ready to go. We can do this whenever." And he's like, "It has to be at Survivor Series. If we're gonna do this, like, it has to be at Survivor Series." And he's like, "Listen, my agent had to work overtime. He wasn't happy about that." And they got a deal done, man. He legit signed the contract on the dotted line right before he got out into Gorilla and fucking walked out. And that reaction you saw from Seth Rollins was legit a genuine reaction. He was not
all
happy.
of them, Rhea,
all of them, like they all stood there like they were just like they just didn't know how to respond. Like freaking Seth was just out of his gore. And yeah, all of it was a genuine reaction. The only people knew that was his beautiful wife, April, some lawyers, Triple H, and Nick Khan. That's it. And how all that transpired. He went over him getting kicked out of a of a WWE event back in 2023 that was in Chicago. It was Monday Night Raw, and how he got done commentary at a cage fight event that he's been doing on the side as well. And he was coming back to Chicago, and Monday Night Raw was going back to Chicago. And then Bailey, texted him saying like, "Hey, Monday Night Raw's in Chicago. You should come along." He's like, "Well, I don't got the wife or the dog, so freaking why not?" Yeah. And he pretty much went there unannounced. He met with Triple H, and then that's when Triple H, he pretty much ratted this dude out. He called up Vince McMahon. He's like, "Hey, Phil Brooks is here." And then freaking Vince McMahon's like, "Get him out of here."
Vince. Yep.
And he freaking kicks him out. And Phil Brooks like, "Listen, I expected it," because I believe he was still under contract at AEW at the time, so he expected it as well. And just really emphasizing all of that WWE, the return and everything, the appearance, and how that reaction you saw from everybody was a genuine reaction. Nobody had a freaking clue, and it kind of just proved our point right. So where you knew something was up, right? You maybe thought it was a work, it was going to turn into a work, but something just felt real in that moment.
Yeah, I said it at that moment after our review show. Yeah,
absolutely, for sure. But Brian, before we get into the AEW side of things, your thoughts so far in regards to what Punk had to say about the return and this getting kicked out of a WWE event not too long ago, man. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I don't think any of that really shocked me or surprised me or really nothing surprised me of what he said. The whole return and that at Survivor Series. I mean, not that I get it right all the time, but I've been watching wrestling long enough to know generally or recognize when, this is obviously a work, and when, hey, this is something's real here, and that was one of them, man. I mean, it was. Again, it was just how the whole thing ended. It was Rollins. It was Drew McIntyre just kind of walking off. It was, I believe, Cody and Jey Uso left in the ring, and they just kind of were like, left the ring, and just all of it.
A lot of them were just talking with the heels, like just having buddy conversations because they didn't know what to do. So they were just like, wait, well, how do we respond? All right, the focus and the attention is on Punk, so let's just freaking act surprised or what, I don't know. So it definitely something felt off, and something definitely felt very real in that moment. And now we know in regards to it.
That's what, like him, hate him, or whatever, man, that's what Punk brings, and it was fucking awesome. I mean, even in that moment, like, I know it kind of, as a Drew McIntyre, or as a Seth Rollins, or as a Jey Uso, it's kind of like, okay, Punk's back, and obviously he's in a top spot, so you're a little pissed off, or a lot pissed off, but at the same time, man, he's gonna bring asses and seats.
Mhm.
That's what he's gonna do.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then of course he goes on to talk about Vince McMahon
Hmm.
and pretty much how, listen, it would I would be lying if the fact that Vince McMahon is no longer here, that it does benefit the company a lot. In regards, he said he had one conversation with Vince. It
Hmm.
was like at the gym, I
The
believe,
G-
in WWE headquarters or
and
whatever
he
their
was
gym is at.
go ahead.
And he was like saying like, "Oh, we should chat it up or something, or freaking catch up." And he's like, "All right, cool, whatever." And then they never spoke after that. So it was very interesting in regards. But yeah, Brian, you seem like you want something to you have something to say about it. So I'll let you have the
It's one
floor.
of those, like, just you can just imagine Vince being this type of douche, like to where CM Punk was in there, like, yeah, working out. I got his headphones in or whatever, and security has to come in before Vince to tell him, hey, Vince doesn't like people on their, listening to shit while they're working out. So he had it, like, man, if you don't step the fuck off and let me be me, dude, and get the fuck out of here with that nonsense.
Yeah.
Sorry, my allergies are like, oh, they're killing me. So I'm sorry if I sound like shit and keep sniffling and coughing, but yeah, it's just that kind of silly shit that I find, like, it's that, like, evil villain shit.
Mm-hmm.
But to more to what he was saying about Vince and the real life shit that Vince does is like, or did. Um, I mean, I think he handled that well. And what can he say? I mean, yes, the guy was the man's a lot of people's bosses for decades,
Mm-hmm.
and you can look back in periods of time like, okay, this guy came to power, in the 80s through the 90s, 2000s,
Right.
to a billionaire, right? Like, what are you gonna, like, clutch at what he did now? You're like, that's a step further. But back then, like, say, the bikini matches or whatever, or the rampant sexism and whatever. Yeah, it fucking happened. Absolutely. Like, it was on TV. Like, nobody should be shocked about that.
Mm.
Um, but to where it has gone to now, like, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people didn't know that, who weren't in his immediate circle, like,
Mm-hmm.
what, you know uh, the rank and file of your everyday wrestler did not have that kind of access to Vince McMahon to know what he's doing at his home or in his hotel room or whatever, so what can any wrestler say, or anybody say about that? It's disgusting. It's horrible. I hope he gets everything that's coming to him, or that should come to him.
Mm-hmm.
But I've said this before. This is America. He's a white billionaire. The chances of him getting off pretty lightly, I don't know, probably pretty high, and that's disgusting and unfortunate. But
Yeah.
that's where we are, man.
Right. Yeah. No, and I'm sure like TKO, I mean, they've made it clear that they want nothing to do in
Yeah,
regards to a
right.
business relationship with them. So, yeah, I mean, get used to not seeing or having WWE acknowledge Vince McMahon's name at all in the company in regards to like previous
Yeah.
history and everything. They've
And
already
like
already.
Punk said, that going forward, that is what's best for business. That is what's best for wrestling as a whole. Is
Mhm.
that, Vince had his time, and gosh, it's one of those things where it's hard to parse it out sometimes, right? Because,
Yeah.
as a child, of course, you don't know any of this shit, nor do you care, nor should you. You just see this product that you fall in love with, and it's awesome, and it's, you become a lifelong fan, and then some shit like this goes down, and it's like, god damn it.
Exactly.
We
Yeah.
can't have shit, man. We can't have shit in this world, dude.
No, nothing. Oh, as a wrestler? Oh, hell no. Of course
Oh
not.
man.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Anyway, let's get to the juicy part of this freaking
Yeah.
interview, and
Yeah.
that's about AEW. So he talks about a lot of stuff with AEW. He talks about AEW All In. He talks about the Jack Perry segment and Real Glass and Cry Me a River, right? So he starts off by talking about AEW All Out. And he says that like when he got injured at the time, nobody was there to check up on him during his rehabilitation. He didn't know what to do for PT, OT, none of it. Like there was nobody helping him in regards to that. And just kind of exposing AEW and kind of almost running a sloppy shop in a way in regards to it. And then he goes on to talk about AEW All In Wembley just a couple months ago. And he speaks about how there was nobody that even picked him up at the airport. Right. And Punk's like, listen, I don't mind freaking going on an adventure is what he'd said. But like, that seems also very unprofessional for one of your top stars. If anybody, it's not even just me, but like any other star, they arrive to a certain city or country and you don't have like a certain vehicle to drive them to the hotel or to the venue or whatever the case may be. It just seems very interesting. But he jokes about it. He said, listen, it was fun and whatever. He's like, he went on an adventure, a long freaking adventure. Right.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to talk about this whole Jack Perry situation about wanting to use real glass. And, you know, Punk said on the second Collision episode, that Tony Schiavone came up to Punk or that says, hey, listen, Jack Perry, he's cussing out all the people on staff, including the doctors about this whole segment. And Punk's like, all right, let me freaking reason with this guy. So Perry wanted to smash the window of a rental car with a pipe for this story angle. And Punk's like, dude, it's a rental car. Like freaking, what are you gonna? You're gonna return this rental car with no freaking glass window? Like, what are we doing? And then like, listen, you know, Tony Schiavone's told you no. Doctors have told you no. Now I'm the one that has to freaking tell you no. He's like, listen, if you want to do this on Wednesday nights. Don't do this on Saturday night, right? Leave that on Wednesday. And then Punk thought that was that. He thought the beef was squashed. And you heard what freaking Jack Perry said on the freaking pre-show facing Hook, I believe. I believe it was Hook that he fought in that pre-show. I can't remember. Yeah, it was that fucking irrelevant. But that was the only thing I remember in regards to just the freaking quote that he had. But yeah, so Punk hears this statement and Punk goes straight to Tony Khan and he says like, you need to handle this. And Tony Khan's like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, dude, just be the boss. That's legit what Punk said. He's like, I want you to be the boss here. Like, clearly this is getting out of control. You need to step the fuck up and you need to be the boss here. And then Punk and then Jack Perry had words. He's like, listen, you know, why do you have to do this dumb internet shit? And Jack Perry's response was like, oh, we'll do something about it or whatever. And he's like, listen, I didn't punch him. I just choked him a little bit, freaking putting his hands on him. And Samoa Joe, he said that Samoa Joe was there to kind of break it up. And freaking Punk was in outrage. He turns to Tony Khan and he legit says, like, this place is a joke. You're a clown. I quit. And he freaking walks off like, dude, fucking hey. And they have the match
and
anyway.
This is at Wembley. This is at fucking Wembley, man.
This is at one of your biggest events. Your biggest events as a company.
In wrestling.
Right, in wrestling ever.
Yep.
And this is what's going down. Not even when the show is going on, before the show is going on. So Punk says, listen, out of respect of Joe and Jerry Lynn and the directors and everybody, the producers of the match, he went out there and did the match. And that was the last time he even face-to-face with Tony Khan was backstage in Wembley. He's like, the last 6 months, I have not heard from him or spoke to him ever since then. So yeah, and then he goes on to emphasize, like, listen, you know, how viewing the business, right? Punk views the business and he talks about Tony Khan. He's like, listen, he's not a boss. He's just a nice guy. Does that sound familiar, Brian, when I've been speaking about Tony Khan? It's just like, he 100%. Seems like a genuine dude, but he's not a businessman. He's not a boss. He's just a fanboy. And everything that Punk said is honestly what I've said and what you've said and what so many people have said about this guy. It's just like, and I think he mentioned about, like, you know, if you're going to have some goof saying that you had a 5-star match and the building is a quarter full, we're not in the same business. This is legit quotes from Punk. And then, of course, he goes on to talk about Hangman and Page and how they were, you know, going back and forth about a certain promo angle and they agreed of what they were going to say. And Hangman just legit says some different type of shit. He just goes out there and just says his own thing. And then Punk has to, like, kind of like double down and like has to like, call audibles in the promo. And then they go backstage and Hangman's like, dude, why did you do that? He's like, oh, well, I heard from a friend that like you got my best friend fired. Pretty sure he's talking about Colt Cabana, by the way.
Right.
So that whole exchange in regards. And then, of course, he goes about the media scrum. And he didn't give too many details about the media scrum because of like NDAs and all that other stuff. You guys understand all that. And just how he talks about describing like the Bucks and pretty much that whole clique as referencing them as high school mean girls and like the clique and all that stuff. So yeah, just it's a lot. It's a lot to take in, but it's a lot that was pretty much answered. And listen, at the end of the day, like, listen, this is from one side of the story, and it's like, oh well, we got to know the other side of the story, and that's fair. But man, like, you guys can't deny in regards to what Punk is saying about Tony Khan and this company is that all they care about is just the matches, and all they care about, right, is just freaking, have some goof named freaking Dave Meltzer rate 5-star matches and have a building that's quarter empty. Like, Punk's like, dude, that's not how I run business. Like, this is not how a business should be run here. And he's right, because you can't do that. You can only go so far with that type of shtick alone. Mm-hmm. And it just proves my point about what you, Brian, as well as a lot of people have said about AEW is that Tony Khan and this company, they are in over their head and they're going to keep doing this same shtick, and the business can only get so far. It's just like their niche audience, right? I've always said this all the time too. It's like their niche audience when they started was what? Probably around 950,000, probably from their first episode 5 years ago. And now today, you're getting on average like 750, 800,000 viewership on average. That's your flagship show. So the question is, like, where did 100 to 200,000 of your niche audience fucking go to? You know what I'm saying? So the proof is in the pudding that not even your niche audience can stay and watch this redundant garbage that we see every freaking week, at least majority of it, right? We talk about Tony Storm. We talk about the Bucks now and what they're doing. There's a lot of good stuff and talent that we respect, but this shtick that AEW is doing is only going to get so far, right? And if this is just the goal, if this is just what you want to do, great. But if you want to be in competition with WWE, then it's not going to cut it. And that's just the truth, man. So Punk, everything he said, whether you like him, whether you hate him, this was pretty much like a therapy session. Everything that that he wanted to say or could say, he freaking said it. He said all of it. And listen, how you feel about Punk to a certain degree is fine, but everything he said about, regardless of what he said about Hangman Adam Page and this whole backstage, it just shows you, regardless of, again, who's in the right or wrong, whether it's Punk or whoever, it just shows you the dysfunction of this company. And there's nobody really running this business. There's nobody. It's not Tony Khan, right? Because he's just like, oh, what do you want me to do with this? Well, freaking Punk's like, I want you to be a boss. I want you to freaking take direction with this. And you can see, like, there's no direction. There's no leadership. It's a company that's in over its head. And that's all I can say. Brian, your thoughts, bro. The floor is yours.
Ooh, that was a lot.
That's a lot.
He had a lot. Man, look, I'll start with this. This is why, CM Punk is and will forever be one of my favorites, and why I identify with him so much as not only a character, but his who Phil Brooks is. I identify so much when he said, I'm probably going to paraphrase here, but like, look, I'm asking you to handle it. I'm giving you the chance to handle it. If you don't, I will. And you're probably not going to like how I do it. And then people want to get up in arms about Punk's this and that and whatever. God damn, I identify with that so much, man. So look, I mean, what he said is, you can see that play out in real time. I mean, guess who's not back in AEW? Jack fucking Perry. Why do you think that is? So yeah, it's one of those things where, like, man, I don't know. things like that, real glass, fake glass, and whatever. And you can say like, oh, well, back in the 80s and people did do it back then. And it was, guess what? It was fucking dangerous. And now you have better, safer ways to do it. I don't know, man. But yeah, to go out there and kind of, it seems like AEW is still in that they have the money and the airtime on TV to be a big time company, but it's still run like an indie business to some degree. And like you mentioned, like with Punk saying like, nobody contacted him, no PT, no, whatever, after he got injured. Like if you're a wrestling company now and you're in the big time, you got to provide that kind of shit for your talent, the doctors, the training staff, the PT, the travel,
right.
That's your responsibility as a multi-million billion-dollar company, whatever it is. So that's amateur, unprofessional nonsense that, especially again, as we've mentioned, these are independent contractors. That yes, this stuff is supposed to be taken care of for them because they're making you the money,
Right.
Yeah. So with the Hangman stuff, I mean, what do you do out there on live TV? You do the best you can, I guess. So and with him, like, he mentioned a couple times, like he had asked for him to release me, and it's one of those things where, like, again, to Khan being the nice guy, like Khan, I'm sure really hoped that it would work and wanted it to work.
Yeah.
But if you can't say no to anybody, or you can't, I guess use the term discipline when it needs to be done, then this is what you're gonna get. And he also said too, like, hey, as long as Tony Khan, he's got billions, as long as he wants to put money in it, AEW is going to be there. Whether it gets any better or any more professional or any more consistent or whatever, And I got to even tie this into Edge's promo last night, and the main part of it is Edge went out there and listed like, all these dream matches, a Kenny Omega, a Sting, FTR, House of Black, all these things, and he even said all first time matches never happened. Well, he's been there for I don't even know how long now. You're right, none of them's happened. You're wrestling Griff Garrison, you're wrestling whatever. So what the fuck? Like
Daniel Garcia.
like, we want to see these. That's we hope as a fan, and I know everything he said out there he meant, and I respect and love him as a wrestler and his whole career
for sure.
But man, like, it's I don't know. It's one of those things where it's kind of cringy to me, where like it's obviously you're doing it in part to stop the bleeding and put a positive spin on thing, which kudos to you. That's needed as well. But I mean, Punk, it wasn't wrong in anything he said.
No,
so,
none of it. Absolutely none of it. And listen, much love to Adam Copeland. I was able to catch the promo from last night. Wasn't able to watch much of AEW Dynamite, really most of it, or at least majority of it. But he kind of just goes on and tries to, like, listen, I don't want to be the negative Nancy like a lot of people in the wrestling industry are at times and whatever. I want to talk about the positives, right? I want to talk about, like the upcoming matches, right, Brian, like you talked about, with people freaking like Will Ospreay, right, and people like Kenny Omega, and people like freaking, again, just throwing names out there, right, like the Bucks or something, whatever it is. And kind of just painting AEW more in a better light. And like you said, and it's kind of the best way to describe it, is stopping the bleeding from this interview. That's pretty much what it was, to kind of paint AEW in a better light after what transpired in Punk in this interview.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, much love to Adam Copeland. I mean, listen, I've always say this all the time when it comes to Edge, Adam Copeland. Like, you know, there's a few wrestlers that I've really have connected with and
Mm-hmm.
have really felt and just was in awe of their character and everything they did. Edge, Adam Copeland is one of
Yeah,
them.
yep, absolutely.
Again, I always talk about him and John Cena back in 05 was like one of legit the first ever feud alongside with Orton and The Undertaker at the time when Orton was still like this young up and coming legend killer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just during those times to where like the storytelling and everything was so good, and it did wonders for people like Randy Orton because of how The Undertaker, and this is just off the top of my head, I'm throwing left field and hockey stick in left field here, but you know, the Bray Wyatt LA Knight feud, that kind of reminds me a little bit of how it did so much for LA Knight in that feud, and then how Undertaker and Orton, it did really a lot for Orton, placing somebody like Orton that's still young, that people still need to know more about in that time. And then you have someone like The Undertaker playing mind games and stuff. So I know that was left field in a hockey stick there, but thought I'd share that. But yeah, in regards to Edge, Adam Copeland, listen, he's going to go out there. He's a company guy wherever he goes. He's been, he's defended WWE many times. Like that's his home, and that's where he always is going to be grateful for, is being a part of WWE. And listen, he's here in AEW. He's going to make it work. And while he's here, he's going to, you know, defend the company in some sort of light. And that's the professional that he is. But that doesn't take away everything that Punk said and how valid it is about this company. Because deep down, whether, again, we like CM Punk, whether we don't like CM Punk, everything he said, right? Whether, again, you know, we'll need to know more, maybe different side of the story about the Jack Perry situation, right? The freaking all-out media scrum, right? Because, again, we still don't know because of NDAs and all that stuff, right? But regardless, man, it still shows you, no matter who's involved in this, the main takeaway is that how AEW runs business. Somebody like Punk, who's a top star, and you don't have anybody picking him up from the airport and driving him to a certain venue or airport. Like it's a business. You have to, they're not employees, they're independent contractors, but you're still a business here, right? You still have to portray as a professional business if you're trying to be a certain competitor over at WWE, right? You have Tony Khan that says, like, to Punk, what do you want me to do about this? I want you to be a boss here, right? And even Punk says, like, listen, this company, it's not about making money. He even says that, right? And some people think like it's hypocritical for Punk because he never had this sort of mindset years ago about the business. But that's the thing about wrestling and about just working for a said company and wanting to put on good business and good quality TV. It's about good business, and good business is, you know, everything having structure and everything not just going off the rails. And it's, again, clear as day that there is just no structure nor anything like that in AEW right now, at least as of right now. And if nothing changes, that's what it's going to be. And we wonder why, right? Like ratings go down and not a lot of people, you know, can't connect with these wrestlers, and how the stadiums and these arenas are like, maybe not the stadiums like freaking London. I mean, those venues are jam packed, but all these other small little venues, and how a quarter of them are empty, like half empty. And it just speaks volumes. And what Punk says, it gives you a clear visual of why that is. And it just makes sense. And it's unfortunate. You know, we want to see, me and you, Brian, want to see AEW succeed to the highest degree. But I mean, somebody has to say something about this company, because it's just so weird, because now we're in a day and age, and we'll get to Monday Night Raw in just a second. And Brian, I'll have you finish your thoughts. It's just like, we're in a day and age now. It's just like, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Right? It's like, it's like, this is awesome, right? This is awesome. Every match gets a 5-star match, right? Every flippy do gets a freaking "this is awesome" chant. But we never want to be honest and say, you need to work on your character more. You need to do this. You need to do that. No, we're just going to tell you how great you're doing, right? And he also talks about, too, and I'll finish it off with this, is how guaranteed money has also been a big detriment to professional wrestling. And listen, it's great that these wrestlers are getting paid, and some, again, better than most, and some of it's deserved, no question. But a lot of it, man, because back in the day, that's why wrestling, I believe, was so freaking good. And these characters were so good and into their character. There wasn't guaranteed money back then. So everything mattered. But now they're comfortable. It's like, listen, I got my guaranteed money. I got money coming into my bank account, my spot. Nobody's taking my spot as of right now. So I'm good. I could just put on a bunch of flips and dives and people will fucking eat it up. And that's the problem. And we wonder why there's not a lot of larger than life stars. People like the Ric Flairs, the Roddy Pipers, right? The Stone Colds, the Rocks, the Bray Wyatts. Yes, I'm putting him in that fucking category because he freaking earns that right.
Yeah.
So, and that's it, man. So guaranteed money has been a big detriment to the company and how everybody is just too comfortable, if that makes sense. They're too comfortable and they're too relaxed instead of, okay, you can be relaxed, you can be chill, you can create a good, comfortable, and healthy environment. But there's also times to where like you got to buckle down and you got to start working on your character and you got to start giving a shit a little bit more. And that's it. So Brian, before we get to Raw, your final thoughts in regards to that?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a catch-22 there. Where I mean, because he's probably right to to categorize it like that, but I'm also with what these people do day in day out 300 days a year, like absolutely guaranteed contracts for sure. Like and even to it's one of those things where like, man, other things, maybe unintended consequences come along with things, right? Like, yeah, back in the day when it wasn't guaranteed contracts and, it was a very much a cutthroat industry, well, a lot of bad shit happened too, right? And because people are like, yeah, fucking, I gotta eat tonight. I gotta, maintain this,
Right.
whatever, and shit goes down. So, yeah, it's a catch-22, man, where if that money's coming in, then you don't have to take certain risks, nor should you take certain risks.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know how you ever get past that. But as a company and as a boss and a leadership within, like, it's one of those things where like, no, we don't ever need another Vince McMahon type, but you can't be like, you can't be a yes man all the time. You just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, and I'm going to leave it at that as well. So if you guys want to check this interview out with Punk, again, it's on Ariel Helwani's podcast. I believe it's called the MMA Hour. And a bunch of other wrestlers have also done interviews. I believe Cody Rhodes just did a recent interview. Rhea Ripley, which we're also going to kind of tie into a certain segment on the show that was part of it. But let's get into Monday Night Raw, man. Let's get into the go-home show to WrestleMania. So what do I want to start off with, man? I've been thinking about this all day long. I'm going to start off with the IC title. Here. So they did this little segment, this little vignette. Obviously, if you've watched Rocky before, you know what this entire shtick was. This was a Rocky shtick to where Sami Zayn is playing Rocky and Chad Gable is playing Mick, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's Philadelphia, right? So they're kind of tying that into a way. And listen, they made it work. It kind of works in a way. Little cheesy. I'm not going to lie.
Very cheesy.
Very cheesy. But it worked in a way. I mean, I don't think there was any other two people outside of maybe Chad and Sammy that could have made that work, because that was very cheesy. It was okay. But I understood what they were trying to do, right? It's Gunther. He's held onto this title for hundreds upon hundreds of days. And like Chad Gable's trying to be the coach or whatever. So they have a match, Sami Zayn and Bronson Reed. Sounds familiar? Yeah, you just saw it freaking last week. You were just doing the same shit. Like I always say, redundancy at its finest. But
yeah.
But Gunther comes out, or he's assaulting Chad Gable as he's going up, or as he's walking up the staging area, as he's laid out Chad Gable. Sami Zayn's distracted. He walks up the rampway, or at least hustles up the rampway, checks up on Chad Gable. Gunther also lays him out. The bell never rang, so people are even like, even people in the crowd in Brooklyn were chanting, "Ring the bell," right? And freaking, yeah, the bell never rang, which was odd. Or I guess maybe they want you to think, well, maybe Sami Zayn got counted out. I don't know, but still, the bell just needs to ring, though, regardless. It was just very weird how the bell never rang at all. But Gunther lays out Sami Zayn, and that was pretty much it, as Gunther stands tall over both men. So look, again, the segment with the whole Rocky shtick, I mean, it was okay. It was, again, very cheesy. I think we could have done things differently in a way with that. But a lot of the suspense still is in regards to Chad Gable and what he's going to do. Is he going to stay alongside Sami Zayn, or is he going to turn on Sami Zayn and cost him this championship? So at least that's still up in the air. I just wish we could have done things differently if we're going to a Rocky type of shtick here. And Gunther, of course, laying out Sami Zayn and Chad Gable was fine. I mean, you got to do something like that for the ultimate dastardly heel going into Mania. You have to have him feel as such. So that's fine and very simplistic there.
Yeah, I feel pretty much the same, man. I mean, it was goofy, silly. I don't know if any two other people could pull it off, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where that's kind of, you know, historically how things play out in that go home show anyway. You're like, yeah, the heel does something to, you know, get one over on the face, and the story here is, well, there is two stories. I mean, because we do expect Gunther to lose, and there's the Chad Gable, you know, turning, or how long they're going to, you know, play that out with Sami. So yeah, all in all, no problem with it. Yeah, but you know, going into Mania, I think that Sami pulling that, well, yeah, because Gunther's still got to lose the title. Yeah, Sami's winning that.
Yeah, I was going to say, listen, I know we're still on this whole shtick with Chad Gable should be in this situation facing Gunther. Like, I get it, man. So now people have, like, maybe not turning on Sami Zayn in a way, but they're just like, yeah, it's just like, I don't need to see Sami Zayn hold on to an IC title. And I hear where they're coming from to a degree, but Gunther can't hold on to this title anymore. He just can't. Like, where else again is he going to drop? I said it in the roundtable. If it's not at WrestleMania, where is he going to drop this title? Now, we made assumptions, right, about, I know Nick, shout out to Nick from the Ring Fanatics. He made a wild assumption about frickin' Chad Gable joining Imperium. And I'm thinking, okay, I mean, I like the hot take, but him being a part of a faction just to be a part of a faction, it's just like, I don't know. That's just because Chad Gable's more than just a member of a faction, right?
Yeah.
But if you were to do something like, you know, I mentioned the whole like freaking Wyatt family, Daniel Bryan shtick, to where you got to defeat Gunther and Imperium from within, you can maybe do something like that. But if you're gonna go that avenue, then where is it gonna? I guess at SummerSlam that would be the only place. To also evolve that story and to have that said match. But I don't know. It's not going to happen anyway, really. I do think that Gunther is going to drop this title, whether we like it or not, as he should, because Gunther is time to go to that main event scene, and maybe not right away for the world title. I mean, who knows where that trajectory is going to go. But, you know, we need for him to be in that main event picture with people like Seth and people like Cody Rhodes and people like CM Punk. It's got to happen.
Yeah.
Like he's done, because I don't want him to overstate his welcome with this IC title in this mid card, right? I just don't want him to do that to where it's not really helping the mid card division at all. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So Gunther, man, yeah, listen, Sami Zayn, I'm fine with Sami Zayn. I would have been fine if it was Chad Gable.
Yeah.
But the main question is Chad Gable's part of it? Imperium, I'm sure, is going to get involved some way, somehow. Chad Gable will be in that scuffle, and we'll see what he does in regards to it. But yeah, cheesy segment, very, very cheesy segment, and just an interesting term of events of, like, you know, not ringing the bell after the matchup or whatever. But it is what it is. Gunther stands tall as he should. So, take it or leave it, I guess, if you want to say. Let's move on to the ladies real quick. So Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley. So Rhea Ripley was also one of many wrestlers, WWE wrestlers, that had interviews with Ariel Helwani on the MMA Hour. and Rhea's in the middle of this interview. I believe she ends up calling, was it Ariel Helwani or was it Rhea's phone? I know, I think it was Ariel Helwani's phone.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, oh, it's like I'm on my way to the studio or whatever. And they have this altercation. And I was like, okay, I like this, the different change of setting. And I'm like, I wish they would have dragged that along a little bit more. It kind of just ended abruptly. And then later on in the night, Becky Lynch hits the ring and she calls out Rhea Ripley's like, I was like, we shouldn't wait until WrestleMania. Let's just do this right now. And Adam Pearce, he comes out and says, oh, well, save it for Mania, right? Save it for WrestleMania. Right. Rhea Ripley comes out. She wants to freaking get her hands on Becky. Freaking somehow gets into the ring. I think she like tosses her title in freaking Adam Pearce's face. So that way she's able to run to the ring or whatever. And they just have a pull apart brawl. I mean, again, there was nothing bad about it, but nothing evolved after what I saw last week. Nothing just evolved from it. It was just a pull apart brawl. And I think they also were like exchanging or that it escalated backstage, at least later on. But I don't know, man. It's just, I wish they would have emphasized more from the studio where Ariel Helwani was at. Yeah. Versus in the ring and backstage, right? That was such a cool setting to do. Like, it's gotten so personal to where Becky has to interrupt Rhea and this interview and to, exchange freaking blows or whatever, right? And like, that's cool. Like freaking, what was it? Bailey and Io Sky. Freaking Io Sky had ducted an interview. And as soon as I believe it was the director says, all right, that's a wrap. Freaking Bailey just freaking attacks her from behind, chucks her through this freaking green screen. And then people have to separate. Like, that's badass, man. I freaking love that. So I wish it could have you should have just left it alone with the whole Ariel Helwani visual in his studio. I think they should have just left it off with that because it was just a regular pull apart brawl that I've seen before. Mm-hmm. It seems like that's just the go-to nowadays. It's just like, if we don't have any real creative juices flowing, let's just have a pull apart brawl. Let's get some fake, or maybe not fake, but just some indie performers to disguise themselves as freaking security. And let's pull apart everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that works to a certain degree, but just doing that all the time, it's just like, we can do better. But Brian, I'd love to get your thoughts, man. Your thoughts on Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch and everything as a whole with this.
Yeah, I mean, nothing really advanced or anything. And like I said in our roundtable, this is one of the matches where I don't know where it's going, man. I don't know who's coming out on top, but yeah, definitely interested to see it. And this was just like, it is the kind of like lazy thing to do. Just have a pull apart brawl and, leading into the match. But I am intrigued with the match. I really don't have a clear idea who's coming out the winner here. So it's keeping me interested that way. So I'll take it.
Yeah, and we'll see in regards to, and listen, I know the last thing that people want to see right now is Becky holding on to a world title, but look, because the thing is, right, and I've said this before, it's just that with Rhea, because she's getting cheered and everything, and you can argue with Becky, it's just like, does she really need this world title? But the other question is that, is there anyone else that's believable to defeat Rhea right now? Like, it's because as much as I love people like Liv Morgan, it's not believable for her to win the title over Rhea Ripley. It's just not. And it's also going to be, I think also the most interesting thing will be maybe not this match in general, because I mean, I can take it or leave the match. I mean, I got a little bit into it after what happened last week, but
right.
And it'll be a fine match for what it is. But it'll definitely be interesting to see what escalates afterwards with Rhea Ripley. Does she officially split from the Judgment Day? Do they do a double turn? I don't know. I mean, Brian, you said it best in regards to Becky last week. It's just like bringing up her daughter and like, hey, don't mention my daughter like that. And also mentioning like how her dad never got to see her daughter born. It's like, how can you turn her heel now? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I don't know. It's just, are you going to continue to portray Rhea as the heel because what the light that you've painted with Becky and being the lovely mother and, being the Wonder Woman, I guess, if you want to call it that, and like defending or like trying to stick up for her daughter and her family. Mm-hmm. but Rhea Ripley's going to stay the heel. She's going to still get cheered, and it's kind of blurring the lines. It's like you come across, it's like you're flicking through channels, and like you come across this dastardly villain, but the crowd's cheering her. It's just like, the fuck are we doing here? What's going on here? It's just confusing. It just blurs the lines in a way, but we'll see in regards to it. But yeah, Rhea, I love the visual with Ariel Helwani in his studio. I thought you could have escalated more with that. And I think it could have just left alone after that. I think everything else was just not bad. It was just not needed.
We need to fill up 45 seconds or a minute and 25 or whatever. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah, exactly. We got to fill up some freaking time. It's filler. Like I always say, bro, it's freaking like filler. Let's just fill up time and let's do a pull apart brawl. And that's pretty much it. Before we get to this final topic, and Brian, I have to mention this. This was running through my head as we're in the middle of this episode here. There was speaking of the Judgment Day, right? There was an 8-man tag, I believe, right? You got to love WWE and their 8-man tags, right? These multi-freaking person tags, right? The Judgment Day, first off, the Judgment Day defeat 2 participants that are going to be in this 6-pack ladder match. So there you go. So the momentum of these other teams is to have them fucking lose to the champions. Fucking awesome. That's number one. That just pisses me off. The second thing is, and I don't know if you saw this, Brian, but Johnny Gargano. Much love to Johnny Gargano. I've said it from Johnny Gargano. That dude, even though his size and stature is, I get it. Like he looks like any other Joe Schmo. I get it. But his work in NXT and his work with, what was that faction freaking called with Candice LeRae, Indy Hartwell? The way with the way in Austin Theory and everyone else, like the shtick that he did, like the comedy shtick that he did with Candice LeRae, like that was really good. And you could tell, like when you give him something or when something clicks with him, he could tell good stories, right?
Yep.
And now it's just like he relies so much on the maneuvers, right? I say the same thing about Ricochet. Ricochet and Ivar in a fucking one-on-one match. What the fuck does that have to do with WrestleMania? Can someone tell me? Does anybody have an answer of what Ricochet and Ivar does for Mania? Just again, that's just a random thing to point out. But so Johnny Gargano, right? He does the suicide dive. He dives through the ropes. And if you catch this, he legit falls on his head and almost breaks his fucking neck up against the freaking announce table. It's just like, why? Like, Brian, like, why do I have to keep emphasizing, like, you don't need to do that, man? Like, I don't understand. Like, and this is going back to Bray Wyatt, right? In this documentary, Finn Balor made a statement that was really eye-opening, is that he's watching Bray Wyatt and he's vibing into his character. He's trying to really get into his character. And Finn Balor said it straight up. He's like, man, I wish I had that type of dedication to my character. And one thing, you appreciate the honesty, but on the other thing is like, why don't you go freaking find that freaking dedication? Like, where is it? You've been in WWE for years. You've been on the independent scene for years. Where's that dedication, bro? And it kind of also makes sense for Finn. It's just like, he hasn't been wanting to do the demon character because that character's larger than life. I don't give a shit what anybody says, but it makes sense now because at least to a degree is that like, oh, it's like he doesn't want to use the demon as a crutch. No, it's just that he's not that dedicated to his character. He said it, right? Because all he wants to do is just, go into the ring and just be smiling Finn Balor or freaking tight shorts Finn Balor, right? Nobody wants to go and do the extra mile. If you have to rely on risking your life and landing on your head, you're in the wrong business. You're not as good as a professional wrestler as you think you are. Maybe you should go do something like gymnastics. I don't know. Just throwing that out there. And I say that about Johnny Gargano because he's more than that. He's more than just, a gymnast that you come across every once in a while, right? This dude is good. He's proven that to you. And that's what really frustrates me, Brian, about seeing Johnny Gargano almost land on his head and break his neck to just do another suicide dive that we've seen countless upon countless of times. For what? Like, for what, man? So, Brian, before we get to this final topic, because there's a lot to go over, I wanted to get your thoughts about that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, with the moves people do nowadays, I've spoken about that a lot. This move in particular, actually, the suicide dive, like, I don't understand. I know, like, sometimes, maybe their knees or their feet get caught up in the ropes as they're coming through,
And
and maybe they fall
accidents happen.
short. Right.
Accidents happen. I get it. So, but yeah,
But
continue.
for the person that is supposed to be taking that suicide dive, I don't understand how it happens so often that the wrestler does come through and wind up like smashing their head and neck into the table.
Fair.
Because to
Yeah.
me, especially, just being on the outside, but knowing, yes, the wrestlers know that they're putting, these are risky moves and whatever. So the person that's taking that has to stand in front of that person coming at them at all cost.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
there's no way like that person should make it through you to hit the table. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
don't understand that. So I don't know. That's just, and again, mistakes happen, timing's off,
Yeah,
whatever.
I
I
get
get
it.
it. But yeah, I'm with you with some of these
Yeah.
moves, and
Yeah.
but with the Finn Balor thing, I maybe see it a little bit differently in that, like, I fully believe he's dedicated to his character, but
Yeah.
like,
Oh no,
even
and
to see it somewhere in the interview.
don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that Finn Balor's not dedicated in what he's doing. It's just that not going that extra mile and using something like the demon. Like, where's the demon been at? Right? Because
Mhm.
you can only do so. Because Finn Balor can only do so much with just his original origins, right? And I get it. Like the demon, like you don't want to showcase it that much because you want to make it feel special and everything, right? But it's just like it just speaks volumes to what he's saying in this. And yeah, maybe I'm taking it a wrong way. Maybe that's the case. I don't
I
know.
think
And
he
I'm not
meant it more like along the lines of, like, I go back to like a Macho Man who fucking every single thing about him, his match, his look, his attire was
yeah.
detailed, his
Uh-huh.
voice. And you kind of see that a little bit with Bray and a little bit with some of what Triple H was talking in the documentary, where for other people that, don't have your vision, necessarily, it's frustrating to work with somebody like that.
Right,
So
right.
I took it more as like that, is where, like, hey, yeah, I'm Finn Balor and I can be the demon, but I can't go to that place where I'm that meticulous, because it just doesn't, I don't think about it to
Mhm.
where a Bray Wyatt does or a Macho Man did.
That's
You know what I
fair.
mean?
No,
Yeah.
it's no, no, it's fair, and that's fair. And yeah, and listen, when I say like dedication, I'm not saying that these wrestlers don't care about wrestling and they don't care about their craft and everything. It's just that and listen, it's just the thing is with Bray, it's just that's the most appreciative thing that I have for Bray is again is doing that going the extra mile to
Sure.
and again
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I've even
Yeah.
said this in the episode is that like because his character is more supernatural, he has to really emphasize and focus on every other detail because if not, like supernatural stuff that could get exposed really really
Yeah.
quickly.
Right.
So yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, man. It's just that I wish it's just that when it comes to larger than life characters, because like that's why we loved about Bray and we were connected with Bray because of how dedicated he was.
Hmm.
And you don't really, and it's a very short list of people that we really feel connected with now. And it's, and I just, and even
Yeah. Yeah.
Undertaker says it all the time. He goes around backstage and a lot of people are just really comfortable. Like everybody's just too chill and relaxed. And I get it. Like you want to be relaxed and create a healthy environment but at the same time, like you gotta develop a balance between the two. Xavier Woods, right? I look at Xavier Woods as a YouTuber more than I do as a professional wrestler. I'm just being honest with you.
Fair, I guess,
You
to
know
some
what I'm
degree. Yeah.
saying? Like I
Yeah.
know
Sure.
when I think of Xavier Woods, I think of his YouTube channel than being as a fucking professional wrestler. And that's just it, right? And again, Undertaker goes around the locker room because he's there backstage and he's just like there's not a lot of like urgency and there's not a lot of really true maybe not care is the right word but again like I know I'm ramming this into the ground but like going the extra mile
Hmm.
to get people to care about you and I'm not talking about your wrestling moves right because it's just like ricochet it's like you do a flip and a dive and oh this is awesome but that's where it ends you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying so I just wanted to emphasize about that but no good point Brian in regards to it and yeah and I've even said in the episode about Bray it's just that he knew he had to be dedicated because it was a supernatural character
100%.
and
Yeah.
and if he didn't it was going to get exposed. And because of the booking botches by this company, Triple H made a statement too. It's just like, oh, I don't know what happened. It was just things just kind of fell apart, and I don't know what happened. No, you fucking failed him, bro. You booking botched him, and you fucking failed him is what happened. Like, don't play freaking dumb. I know you're trying to film a freaking documentary, and you can't really say anything else. But let's cut the shit here. You freaking failed him, is what you did. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to move on from there. So I just had a lot to say about that in regards. But yeah, Johnny Gargano, because that was the main thing about this whole discussion, is that I just wish that I could see Johnny Gargano more and developing the character more. Like, I know you're a good wrestler, dude. I know all of these guys are good wrestlers, but it's time to start putting more of that dedication to your character a little bit more, right? You can play the video games and you can be chill and relax and create a healthy environment. But then there's times where you got to buckle down and you got to start focusing on the character. Like Drew McIntyre. Look what Drew McIntyre is doing. He freaking did it freaking again this past Monday. He's doing a eulogy, he's at a funeral home, right? And he's like, look in my eyes. What do you see? CM Punk's got no match in Philly, or Phil doesn't have no match in Philly, right? It's really good. Like he's on social, he's using social media to tell the story with Punk and to tell the story with Seth. It's just little things like that. I'm not saying you got to go leaps and bounds like Bray Wyatt, because there's only one Bray Wyatt. But it just feels like the people are just collecting a paycheck. At least what Undertaker has told to us is that it feels like that just a lot of people, because people get guaranteed money, that they just collect their paycheck. They just rest on the WWE nostalgia, and then that's it. And then they just go, they go through the freaking motions, you know? But I don't know, man. But very good points, Brian, in regards to Finn Balor. And again, much love to Finn Balor, too. And just bring back the Demon, bro. I need to see the freaking Demon. How long has it been since we've seen the Demon?
It's been a while.
It's been feels like years, bro. Like, that character is so larger than freaking life, man. Like, that character is good. I think the last time I remember was, I believe he faced Roman. I believe at Extreme Rules, it was like the Demon against Roman, I believe, in one of Roman's titles defenses. I believe that's what it was. Maybe it was in the Thunderdome. I'm not sure. Just that kind of came off the top of my head. But yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up to you, man. So just listen. The purpose of this is just, guys, like, we know you're good wrestlers. We know what you can do in ring, but you need to start caring about your character and getting people to connect with you. And that's it. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. All righty. With all that being said, let us get into our final topic. And that will start off at the top of this show, which was The Rock and his amazing freaking entrance, the lightning bolts. You're starting to see like changes in the entrance now. You're starting to see like large graphics of The Rock. Of course, he's got the changing of the theme song and like the red lightning and the laser beams coming out of the Brahma Bull eyes and stuff like that, which is a really cool detail. I love like the long camera shot of like, you see the ring and then you see like the Titantron and you see all the lightning bolts come down and you see like The Rock, the spotlight is on him, right? And he's just standing there with it's so badass, man. I freaking love it. Again, thank goodness for The Rock, or this build to WrestleMania would be somewhat of a dud, to be quite honest with you. But The Rock comes out there, he does his shtick. He plays clips of like, I guess, Cody crybabies, right? These kids that these little like toddlers, pretty much, they're crying after what they saw The Rock do to Cody Rhodes, and like he's playing all these clips. Like, listen, he's like, listen, that hurts my heart, right? Like, oh, listen, I'm also a mama's boy, right? I love my mom. I'm also a dad, right? So listen, so seeing that kind of hurts my heart a little bit. So he's like freaking, trying to like connect with the audience with there. It's just like he continues to do his thing. And then Roman comes out. He introduces to Roman. And Roman Reigns, he comes out doing his freaking acknowledge me shtick, right, with Paul Heyman. By the way, Roman Reigns seems like he's going to be the one to induct Paul Heyman to the Hall of Fame, it seems like, as he talked about writing a Hall of Fame speech or something in a backstage segment later on. But so Roman Reigns is out there. He wants to thank The Rock because of how easy this road to WrestleMania has been. So he's thanking his freaking cousin for it. And once again, he goes and talks about Cody Rhodes and like he's not fit for this position and kind of the same shit that you freaking heard from freaking this past Friday, pretty much. And then you hear Seth Rollins music hits, and Seth Rollins is up on the is in the crowd, doing the whole shield shtick coming from the crowd. And Seth Rollins, he lays down a challenge. Like, listen, if either one of you two got the balls, right, to freaking face me in the main event, right, Rock or Roman Reigns, and he lays down the challenge for both of them. And there's a lot of things spinning through my head, but I'm going to get to that in just a second. And freaking Rock and freaking Roman's like, listen, you're not fighting us. You're not going to fight us tonight. No. And even, you're not going to fight the tribal chief. But we know who you can fight tonight, and that's when Solo Sikoa, Mr. 0-34 himself, frickin' Solo Sikoa, walks in and says, listen, you're not fighting the final boss. You're not fighting the tribal chief. You're fighting me tonight. And it ended up also being Bloodline Rules, which is pretty much just no DQ at the end of the day. Before we get to the main event, I have to say this, and then I'll try to make this short and send this off to you, Brian, is that, man, though, listen, outside, I thought this opening segment was fine. They gave it time. They gave it the duration that it deserves, right? That I believe the first hour, by the way, was commercial free in the show.
Yeah.
So they gave it, I believe this was well over 40 minutes or close to in that degree. But it's what's the word I'm looking for here? Like Solo Sikoa, right? I've been speaking about Solo Sikoa and this 0-34 streak. It's just like, I don't know what the fuck we decided to do with this guy after he annihilated John Cena. Yeah. And we thought he was going to get this big push. He's going to be pushed as this, maybe not the top star, but at least superstar status. But yet he's still in the same position as he was a year ago, just being a henchman to the Bloodline. And he's been on this massive losing streak. And I just made a post about it. It's just like, oh, well, people are saying, oh, it's the story's not canon. A lot of the matches he's lost in live events. I'm like, guys, it doesn't fucking matter. He's still portraying himself to a live audience in front of a live crowd. And freaking perception is everything, right? If you come across as a consistent loser, guess what people are going to see you as? A fucking loser, right? It's like we're talking Brooklyn Brawler, freaking Barry Horowitz status with this guy, man. And it's just like, okay, I mean, I understand he can't win every single match, right? Like that's where you save it for people like Cody and stuff. I get it. But why did you have him annihilate John Cena the way you did? That's my main problem. It's not just the record. It's the fact that you had John Cena, because John Cena can't put anybody over anymore. We did the same thing with Austin Theory, and what the fuck is Austin Theory doing right now? He's in a freaking irrelevant freaking tag with Grayson Waller in this six-pack challenge that nobody, and I mean nobody, gives a shit about, right? So it's just so frustrating. So now, like what is this getting you excited for Mania? You know that something's going to happen at the end regardless, but I would have loved, Brian, if you would have actually made people believe that either Roman or The Rock was going to fight Seth Rollins in the main event. Do some cool shit like that, like Vince McMahon and Stone Cold, for example, right? They would tease throughout the entire show that Vince McMahon is going to face freaking Stone Cold one-on-one in the main event of Monday Night Raw. And people are like, he's not actually going to fight Stone Cold, is he really? And then they did all this gimmickry, I don't even know if that's a word, but just like a gimmick style portion of a match to where like, you son of a bitch, I freaking knew this wasn't going to be a do something like that with Rock and Roman. That would have been more entertaining than just say, oh, never mind, here's Solo Sikoa. It's another live event fucking match. And the only difference is, it's Bloodline Rules. Great. And like, what the fuck? It's so weird, man. But before I get to the main event portion of the show, Brian, your thoughts in regards to it.
Yeah, much to say, man. I mean, if you wanted to have that segment to, I don't want to give away how it ended, but like, it would have been much better served if throughout the night you have Rock and Roman going back and forth about like who's gonna fight the match, in which you make Bloodline Rules anyway. So, and considering the way they did end the match, you tease that all night. You get out there and say, you've already said it's Bloodline Rules, Seth. So guess what? You're fighting both of us. You know, rather than putting Solo out there that, I mean, you're right. I don't know what happened or where, if they had other plans before, and obviously things change and whatever. It's ever evolving, but yeah, it's very weird to have Solo go out there and beat Cena in the manner that he did, and then just lose 34 in a row. I do think in the future here he's gonna be, after Mania, he's gonna be a more of a main focal point of the bloodline, and I believe something big is gonna happen with him. But in this time since, you're right, it just doesn't. And even in the moment when Seth is up there and calling out The Rock and Roman, and then when Solo steps up, it's
not believable.
It's
like, bro, it's like, what are you gonna do? You've lost every single match for 34 matches. It's just like, how believable is it? Again, if you have this guy constantly lose, right, he's gonna be portrayed as a loser. It's just like, you still have to protect the motherfucker, right? It's just, it doesn't matter if this live event match that he's a part of is not canon. He's still in front of a wrestling audience that people record. It's going to be on social media for thousands and millions of people to see. And that's huge, man. That's credibility. There's got to be believability here.
So it would make more sense storyline to me, especially considering how it ended, that you just tease that all night,
right?
And have it be Roman and Rock.
Exactly. Like tease, like are they actually going to fight freaking Seth Rollins, or at least one of them are going to fight? Like, who's going to fight? And then maybe at the end of the night, like, you're going to fight freaking both of us in a 2-on-1 handicap match, and you do some dastardly heel shit. That's fucking thinking outside the box of being entertaining, right? But instead, you throw Solo Sikoa in there for what? For what?
Yeah.
It's just for Bloodline rules. Oh, it's to get a taste of Bloodline rules. Oh, great. I'm freaking.
If we didn't know what that was.
Right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
So I can emphasize the whole Bloodline rule shtick. Again, it's just a no DQ and whatever. It's just, again, just fucking weird. And again, even if whatever even happens in this tag match, there's going to be interference, like, regardless. Like, you know that, right? It's just, it comes down to what if the interference makes sense, right? In regards to the flow of the match. Is like, do you want to do an interference to where it just goes off the rails and everybody's like baffled? Or do you want to at least make the interference make sense for the story? It's one of the two. You pick your poison. So yeah, in regards to, but let's get to this main event here. So yes, it is Seth Rollins, your world champion, or should I say Sethington Rollins is what I like to call him, against Solo Sikoa. So Rollins puts Solo through a table. He curb stomps him through the mat. Jimmy gets involved. He attacks Seth. Jay gets involved, and they brawl up the rampway, both Jimmy and Jay. The Rock emerges from backstage and takes out Jay. I thought that was really cool. Little spot there. The Rock then emerges from the back, and then the Rock then throws him to the freaking, just tossing freaking Jay around and everything. And then he gets to the ring. Freaking Seth is already battered and bruised, so like he can't even hardly defend himself, of course, because he just went through a grueling match. And he gives a little smile on his face towards the final boss, and that's when Cody Rhodes music hits, and it's like, oh, he wasn't supposed to be in the building, and now here he is, right? And again, like you said, Brian, like, you could have done something like a 2-on-1 handicap match, could have done some dastardly shit. Oh, but guess what? Seth Rollins was like, he was one step ahead. Boom, here's Cody Rhodes, and now here the numbers have now been even now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but they did this route anyway. Cody Rhodes rushes to the ring, taking out The Rock. The Rock is selling these punches like freaking beautifully, like he's legit getting laid out by a punch. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
They go to the announce table. I believe he was about to deliver a rock bottom.
Yeah, he was about to do the rock bottom. Yeah,
through the announce table, and then Roman Reigns attacks Cody from behind, which was supposed to be like another shock factor because he was supposed to be gone from the arena.
He was supposed to have left.
He had left the arena, but now here he is with the wise man and everything. And that's when when Roman and Rock just took control, and they took out the Rock took a Cody Rhodes belt, and they started whipping not just Cody, but freaking Seth as well. Now, this is where it got good, like the beatdown with both Seth and with Cody here. which again, it had to happen, right? Because again, it's WrestleMania is legit freaking just, well, as of right now, like 2 to 3 days away. So like you need to have these heels go in with have the edge, right? So this is the way that you do it. And they did it in a really cool and letting it breathe type of scenario, to where they did the beatdown with Cody, and now they're doing the beatdown with both of them. And again, it's more emphasizing on the tag than again with Roman and Cody. But I guess there's nothing else you can really do. I mean, WrestleMania's here, and it just sucks that they've just emphasized more about this tag because it's The Rock, and The Rock is here, and the only way you can get Cody Rhodes to go over is if The Rock plays a heavy part in this. And that's just the unfortunate reality, right? So they do the beatdown, Roman and Rock and the Bloodline, what's left of the Bloodline. I know freaking Jimmy was freaking sent backstage after the brawl that he had with Jay. Solo Sikoa, I believe Solo Sikoa got back up, so it turned into a 3-on-1 beatdown pretty much, or 3-on-2, excuse me. And that was your show with the Bloodline, The Rock, Roman, Solo, and everybody standing tall, and that's Monday Night Raw. Brian, I'll let you start, man. Your thoughts of the ending to this go home show that was Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, I thought it was a good ending, man, and I got to tell you, man, I see 4 possible outcomes in this, man, and I don't know where they're going to go now, because much like the Gunther and Sami thing, like, again, Cody's been beat down twice now, and now you add Seth into it. Do they win that tag somehow? And then it's a 1-on-1 match, right? But even so, I don't know. The 4 scenarios that I'm thinking is obviously they're not going to win the tag match, Cody and Seth. So it's bloodline rules anyway, in which Roman retains.
Yeah.
Or they do somehow pull off that tag where it's 1-on-1. But I think there's going to be a new member introduced that's not technically in the bloodline right now, and that's how they
prolong
get
it
around that. Yeah,
and for who that person is, Jacob Fatu. I know Brian, you mentioned Jacob Fatu. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting, right? Because like you would think, right?
Cody
The Rock,
win? Or does Cody
or
win?
Does Cody
win?
Right?
I'm still
does
leaning
he finally
towards
finish
Roman
his story
retaining,
too?
but
No, exactly. Because me and you were like on the same page in regards to the outcome, at least for night 2, to where Roman's retaining this title. Until I see it, Brian, like that's just what I believe. Like that it's just going to happen that Roman's retaining this championship. Until freaking I see it to believe it. So there's a lot of avenues you can go. I partially believe that I don't think WWE even knows what to do right now. I think they have an idea what to do, but I don't think they put the stamp on it yet. But because you would think too, because you can make an argument, say like, man, like the Rock can't lose, right? If you're going to have the match with Cody and Roman, you like, how can the Rock and Roman lose this match if the plan is for Cody to win at night 2? Then why would the Rock lose, right? Unless you also want to tease Rock and Roman in the future. And that's the thing too, like you said about with the show, and like, who's going to face Seth Rollins? Is it going to be Rock? Is it going to be Roman? You can kind of plant seeds backstage and kind of cause that controversy or doubt, right? Yeah, to further on maybe a future split or a turn or something. So I think it's gonna come down to the seeds that they plant in the match, right? And I think that's where you'll get a good trajectory of where everything is going. Because again, you can go multiple avenues with everything, right? Even with Roman Reigns defending this championship. So I think it's going to be those little details that they place in this tag match is probably what's going to come, not just for Mania, but beyond of what this is going to transpire. So we'll see, man. I mean, listen, if Roman Reigns retains this title, I'm just going to be, listen, I told you so, or we freaking told you so, right? And listen, and if Cody Rhodes does win this championship, then that's great. I mean, I'm not going to say it was that special than what it could have been last year, or what it should have been last year, because it's just not. But I'm also just going to be more of the fact, like, thank God it's just over. I've even said it when Cody Rhodes won the Rumble. I'm just like, just get it over with, man, because it's unfortunate, Brian. I'll kind of end it off with this, is that it's this entire project, whatever you want to call it, it hasn't been fun at all because of all this controversy, all of this debate and talk about, oh, why is The Rock back? We don't need The Rock back. And why would with Cody Rhodes, he has to finish his story.
Mm-hmm.
And, also people like Roman Reigns, Roman Reigns fans, he should defend the title and pass freaking Hulk Hogan's freaking title reign. It's not even enjoyable because of how much WWE has botched this to the point where, like, I just want to get the shit over with. If Cody's going to win, great. I'll be happy for him. Give him a salute.
Sure.
And I'm sure that's going to mean a lot to him. But at the same time, I'm not going to I'm not going to sway either or of what the outcome of this night 2 main event is going to be. I'm just not, because at the end of the day, I just wish I could have, dare I say, enjoyed it and got maybe more invested into this instead of this feeling like just a chore because of all of this controversy that's been around this entire situation since The Rock came back. So I don't know how you feel about it, Brian, but your final thoughts in regards to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair take on it, especially, whether you want to talk about the Bloodline story or Cody or both of them intertwined. I mean, the last year, yeah, it hasn't felt as special as the, Rumble to Mania last year with Cody's build. And this is partly why I think, I don't know, man. It's one of those things where, like, do they do it now just to get it over with? Or, again, which I think Roman's gonna retain, and at some point, again, in this year, you gotta have Cody off TV for a little bit and try to build that back up to get, because I don't know. But
oh no,
this year versus last year, it's so different, and it would feel, instead of feeling like an exciting, captivating, cultivating moment,
right,
it's gonna be like the golf clap.
Thank God this is over. We can be done with it and move on. Like, that's what sucks about this, man. Because, like, I like Cody. I'm not a Cody Rhodes fan, but, like, I would be more than happy to finally see him win that championship and to finish this quote unquote story. I don't know what this story is anymore because it's changed so many freaking times. And honestly, and when it comes to with The Rock and Roman Reigns and a feud with that, like, it would make sense to add another member. I mean, it sucks that because now if Cody Rhodes is going to win this championship, right, and maybe you do add another member, then that would make sense in how to prolong The Rock versus Roman in a one-on-one match, because now you have an added member. So I don't know, man, in regards to it. And listen, I've said it before.
If Cody if Cody does win, then there has to be something within the bloodline that, somebody fucked up, somebody wasn't there. So, and I'm guessing that's The Rock and Roman.
Maybe,
but something's gotta,
or Solo,
or Solo,
Solo maybe. I mean, he hasn't been getting the job done, so maybe there's a reason why he's losing. I mean, still, I wouldn't have him lose 34 straight fucking matches, but it's just so. I mean, it really depends on how the tag match prolongs, and the seeds that plant and what they do in the match, and that's going to tell wonders of, like, okay, this is where they're going to go. But we'll see in regards to it, man. Again, listen, if Cody Rhodes wins, great. If Roman retains, then whatever. We saw it coming. I'm just like, I saw this shit coming, whatever, man, but just at the end of the day, man, I just wish I could have enjoyed this ride a little bit more instead of it feeling like a chore, man, because that's just what it feels like, of all this shit that I hear from fans and everything, right? Like, there's no doubt in my mind that a lot of stuff that you hear from fans, like, from last year, Roman needs to get to 1,000 days, right? The same people that are now saying, okay, well, I'm sick and tired of Roman now. Freaking okay, now Cody needs to win the championship. Where was that energy last year, dude?
Yeah.
Just like you knew this was gonna happen. It's like, oh, I'm so sick and tired of this title reign. You were the same person that wanted him to freaking win the title last year. What'd you think was gonna happen? So yeah, man, it's just it's a mess. It's been a massive roller coaster. And here we are, and we're going to talk a lot about it to see what goes on or what transpires. And we'll see in the good, the bad, and the ugly for both night 1 and night 2 of WrestleMania. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Ruthless Talk. This is episode 28, if I'm not mistaken. We're like almost 30 episodes into this season of season number 4. Also, for season number 4, it is coming to an end, ladies and gentlemen, as this will be about the final about a week and a half of content, at least for this season. Your boys are going to be taking a well-deserved week off after all of this this craziness with WrestleMania season. But then we'll be back with you again the following week once AEW Dynasty will be finished up as well. So we'll be back to talk some AEW Dynasty. But we will be here still to talk WrestleMania, both night 1 and 2. That'll be on Sunday as well as Monday, April 7th, and then April 8th. And then you will hear us talk about Monday Night Raw, the Raw after WrestleMania, as well as the SmackDown after WrestleMania. And that will be the end of season number 4 of Ruthless Talk, man. But thank you guys so much. It's been a crazy freaking road to this big pay-per-view, the shows of all shows, WrestleMania, but the time has come. It's Mania week. There's still another SmackDown show coming up this Friday, as well as the Hall of Fame. The next time that you will see us, we will be talking about WrestleMania night 1, and then we'll be going over night 2 on Monday. So, yeah, man. So we'll see what happens on Friday night, and lots of more juicy stuff to come, man. So coming your way. But Brian, your final thoughts before we end this show.
Just really, man, I'm really excited, like I said last week, about this Mania as a whole. I expect a lot of big things to happen, surprise returns. Yeah, man, I'm really, really looking forward to it. So
yeah,
next time you see us, we'll talk all about it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Either we're going to be freaking in distraught and baffled, or we're going to be freaking happier than a pig in shit. It's going to be one of the two. Right. But thank you guys again for tuning in. Again, you see the banner down below. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram and TikTok. That is Ruthless_Talk. Like I said at the beginning of the show, make sure you guys go check out the latest upload about me talking about Bray Wyatt, the legacy and the career of Bray Wyatt. Again, I'm surprised that I didn't get emotional or much emotional than I did. I was able to hold myself together, surprisingly. But it was just a really, really good episode. It was a really touching episode to make and an upload to make, and hopefully you guys enjoy it, man. So if you love Bray Wyatt as much as I do, definitely go check that video out. Again, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, Ruthless_Talk. And again, of course, our Facebook page. Join our Facebook page. And yeah, next time you see us, we're talking all about WrestleMania. So there's still more controversy, some more professional wrestling chaos to come. And that is going to do it for today's episode, everybody. My name is James Porcelli. I'm Brian Thomas. And until next time, there will be a next time. Your boys are signing off saying salute. Peace out. And take care, everybody. Yankees! So if you can see the dark inside of me, no one will ever change the state.